Hey everybody, what's going on? We are going to talk about arena defense today, and it's going to be an interesting one. This is a little bit harder of a video to make than the arena offense guide that we did a couple of weeks ago, which if you haven't seen and you want to check out, I'll card to it up there. I want to talk to you today about figuring out your goals for arena and how to set up an arena defense that will kind of cater to those goals, and a little bit of the thought process in putting something together. Now, again, this is not as easy to kind of spell out as the arena offenses, because there's a little bit more of a template, and it's a little bit obvious, a little bit more obvious who fits into the templates of certain types of arena offenses than it is arena defense. So first, your goal. What do you want to do? Are you trying to push Ruby? Are you trying to finish top 100? Do you want to just kind of stay up in gold and farm? Do you want to drop even lower? Do you want to get a bunch of wins? Do you want to avoid being attacked? What exactly are you going for here? I personally get a kick out of setting defenses that are going to unexpectedly get wins. I like trying to make defenses that people think they're going to come in and clean up really quickly and then end up losing to. That's fun for me to try to figure out how to do that. So, for example, I ran one a while back. It was Fire Nurse. It was Light Bookworm. It was, I think, probably Water Dome Fighter. She just keeps getting nerfed into the ground, though. She's going to be deleted from the game in the next couple of updates, it seems. And Dark Annihilator. I don't remember if she was the other one here, but I had it set up like this. I probably had someone set up with a lead, actually, instead of her. But it was these three were the core of it. And what was happening was people were coming in trying to cleave it, and his passive was proccing. And the reason this was working is because not a lot of people know what Dark Annihilator does, and not a lot of people are expecting him to have a passive that's going to interrupt their cleave, which is what most people are trying to run when they're farming arena. And then I have him on an ambush set, so he cuts in, gets a turn, usually will target the squishy, and because of the ambush set, he's much more likely to one-shot their damage dealer. And then they don't have any damage, and they can't kill these two. So that was sort of the thought that went into making this offense. Now, it's not going to work in the higher ranks. You know what I mean? Once I get up into the higher end of Ruby, and now Ruby at all, as Arena gets more competitive every week, this isn't going to work in the higher ranks. But down here in Gold, I could set this defense again and come in and have quite a few wins. Right now, I'm just running a one-man defense. Man, I know that's so frustrating. I feel so bad when that happens. When you get soloed by her. Maybe she needs the nerf, but I just run a one-man defense during the week lately because it's a lot easier to farm when you're lower. The teams are not as competitive. Although maybe I need to take her out because I'm not dropping nearly as far as I want to drop, but that's neither here nor there. So there's an example of a defense that I like to build. I like to, come up with stuff that people aren't really familiar with. If you're using all the very popular units, people are very familiar with them. So, for example, Fire Nurse, she's very strong and people are very familiar with her. So we're coming up with more ways to deal with her. Now, you can still get her geared well enough where she's a huge problem, but she's not really going to catch anybody off guard. The only way you're going to catch anybody off guard with her is to just have her way tankier or way faster or have way more resistance than people are expecting. But units, I get a kick out of the units that people aren't going to be familiar with. So once you know what your goal is, like what you want out of it, then you can start to think about what you want to set up. And the main thing to keep in mind when building an arena defense in any of these games is the first thing you need to do is be hard to cleave. That's sort of the prerequisite before you even really get into it. And in Summoner's War, it was Lucian. In this game, it's Tree Bookworm. There's usually going to be a unit or two that is very popular for the cleave, and Tree Bookworm's very popular because he needs a lot less setup. He doesn't need any defense downs. He can just kind of do his thing as long as you give him the turn meter and the buffs, right? So you have to keep him in mind when you're building a defense, because no matter how interesting or cool it looks, if it's the wrong types of units and it's the wrong element especially, it's just going to get bookwormed, and everybody's got bookworm at this point. You know what I mean? Sorry to the few people that don't, but most people have bookworm, and most people are running bookworm on arena offense, and that's annoying. It's annoying, but it is the way it is. It is the way it goes. So that being said, fire units are going to be particularly handy for you. They're a lot less enticing for the tree bookworm user, okay? Now, that doesn't mean you can throw one fire unit in and call it a day, because if they can just bookworm the rest of your team and make it a 4v1, then they're still probably going to be okay. So fire units are like a little bit higher in the priority list because of this. They immediately take away one of the most popular aspects of an offense. And that's ultimately what you're looking to do with a defense, is take away what the offenses do. So it's a good idea to know generally what people are doing on arena offense. And for the most part, it is tree bookworm right now, okay? So fire units are going to be your friend, tanky units especially, right? Fire barb, kind of a hard unit to bookworm. Fire merc mother, kind of a hard unit to bookworm. Any of these tanky units. Fire sorcerer, kind of a hard unit to bookworm, kind of a dangerous unit to try to bookworm. Fire man at arms, very dangerous, right? Especially because he'll counter and kill your bookworm if you screw around, you know what I mean? So, and it doesn't have to be nat 5s, obviously. Fire hog chef is hard to bookworm, you know what I mean? Tree dome, maybe not. Fire dome, maybe not, because you're going to be loading it up on defense. So if bookworm manages to get even one lucky crit, that might be enough. Where somebody like hog chef, he's probably not going to crit her 3 times, and she's going to have a lot of HP. So she's going to be a lot harder to bookworm than somebody like the dome fighter. So keep that in mind. Understand it's not going to be impossible for the tree bookworm to crit your fire units, but it's a lot less likely, and people are a lot less likely to try to do it, okay? So that's the first thing, is fire units are your friend. The more fire units you've got at your disposal, the more likely you are to be able to build a defense that people aren't going to want to bookworm, which is going to drastically reduce the amount of hits that you take straight out of the gate, okay? Beyond that, I personally like to try to find units that are not super popular, that people are probably not going to be very familiar with just yet, kind of like the Dark Annihilator I was talking about. Just to catch people off guard. Again, I don't think anybody's looking at him thinking there's any reason they wouldn't be able to cleave that. Then they come in and he cuts into the middle of their setup and creates problems, right? So I get a kick out of that. So if you've got any units like that, I can't necessarily tell you who they are. You have to figure out what you think might work with something you've got going on. But there's fun stuff down here in the LDs, and there's fun stuff up here too, honestly. There's lots of fun stuff. You just kind of have to get creative with it. So try not to get bookwormed. Then beyond that, it's not a bad idea. Now we're getting into more of like a conversation about actual compositions, okay? We'll start with like a bruisery style, which we kind of talked about on arena offense as well. And a lot of the same principles are going to apply. Tanky units that have a little bit of a threat, or a lot of threat in some cases, with some sustain of various types. You want heals, you want to be able to cleanse if you have any sort of like block debuffs. All that type of stuff will be very, very handy, okay? Some of these bruiser type units, we've talked a lot about Water Man at Arms. He is excellent on a defense because he's just so dangerous, and he is water. So again, you have to be careful about him getting bookwormed. But if you can set up a situation where bookworm does not look that enticing, and this guy starts to get on a roll, it's just such a problem. He does so much. He's got crowd control, turn meter reduction. He does damage based on his max HP. He protects an ally. He's got healing over time for himself. He's got his own turn cycling, and he's got a freeze on the A1 with no chance to proc, which means as long as they have the accuracy, he's going to land the freeze. This is a prime example of someone who's fantastic for this type of defense, okay? He's doing everything that you need done on the team. He's doing it. And the more units like this you can pile into a team and create a little synergy with them, the harder it's going to be to deal with. Now, again, you have to be very careful about doing it with all water units, but he's an excellent example. Honestly, the Fire Man at Arms is also great. Fire Nurse is great. Like a lot of these fire units are going to be really nice. Tankier units, you could probably get some mileage out of the Tree Specialist. It's not really hard to make her very tanky. The Tree Psychosurgeon is pretty fun, and he's got a problematic passive, which is another thing that we want to keep in mind is how many troublesome passives can we get onto a team and maintain some synergy and maintain a composition. It's not just about having the passives on the team, but if you can get some passives on a team that are working together and creating problems, that's the biggest deterrent for me, I'll say. If I've got it, because I run a hex on my cleave, so I can take out one problematic passive. But if there's multiple, if you've got a tree bear and a light bear and a light archon and a fire nurse, I'm probably just gonna skip it because I don't want to deal with it. I can come in and hex the light bear so I don't get countered, but if I don't hit hard enough to kill the archon and the nurse, everybody's just gonna recover and I'm gonna be screwed. So I would rather just not deal with it. You know what I mean? So if you've got that type of stuff, problematic passives are a big plus because they're just a lot harder to deal with. Sometimes you can't even necessarily crowd. I can't even come in and stun the nurse because it won't matter. She's just going to cleanse it at the beginning of her turn anyway, so it's like it doesn't exist. Crowd control doesn't exist for her unless I've loaded up a bunch of other buffs and I get lucky enough that she doesn't cleanse that one. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I'd rather not deal with it most of the time. So she's a good candidate for a defense if you just want to get skipped, especially paired with like a light archon or something like that. So tanky units, crowd control is a big plus. You want sustain, and you do want a little bit of a threat. Unless you're just trying to go pure stall, unless you're just loading up a bunch of resistance on like a water robot and a fire nurse, and like your only goal is to win by default, just because people can't kill your team, unless that's what you're going for, you do want to try to incorporate some sort of threat. So like the water merc mother is a great example now. Even though she's water, she's problematic. Paired with the tree bear, she gets a first turn, she can interrupt, right? I've had my cleave interrupted by her quite a few times because of that. You know, there's tons of good options. Water Iron Fist is a little bit of a safer option, a little bit harder to bookworm because her passive is going to proc every time she gets a critical hit. She's just a little bit harder to kill. Not impossible, but harder to kill. So again, I can't necessarily just list all the units for you that do these things, but if you keep all this stuff in mind, damage that scales off tank stats, sustain, high survivability, problematic passives. These are the things to keep in mind when you're putting your team together, okay? Beyond the Bruiser style defense, you can just speed threat. It's a little dangerous. It's not going to be consistent. I don't know how many times you've experienced trying to go in against a defense that is a speed team and their booster just A1s somebody on your team instead of using their boost. Like, it happens frequently. So if you're looking for consistency in your defense, that's not going to be it. If you're looking to just scare people away, then you could go this route. And a lot more people that are running cleaves are running 25 speed leads, because the 233 speed leads, I think we just have two. I think there's just two. I think it's Water Sphere and Fire Twin. They don't necessarily lend themselves a ton. He does more so than the Fire Twin, but they're not ideal candidates for a cleave in most cases, because you need a little bit more setup than either of these two are bringing. So unless you're letting him also stand in as damage, again, he's easier to do this with than Fire Twin. But most of the time, I think people are running on their offensive cleave a 25 speed lead. So if you've got this one, for example, and you put a dark pumpkin in. I wish these units had names, dude. A dark pumpkin in, or like a really fast booster. People have to really think about whether or not they want to try to win that speed race. You know what I mean? Now, you have to be careful about not being too easy to counter, because someone could just come in with a bunch of zeal runes and, you know, pick you off one by one that way. But so the speed threat is, you're basically just setting up a cleave on defense. So like your speed leader, your booster, your buff remover, and a damage dealer. So like Fire Specialist, for example, is a very scary one to go after on defense if it looks like she's on a team where she'll go first, because if this A2 doesn't go in your favor, she'll get rid of all of your zeal and put stuns on everybody on your team, and then you're going to kind of be screwed, okay? So she's a fantastic example. Fire Music Queen, also a really, really good option. She's got a strip with turn meter knockback, and if you can get her on a fast bash set, she will proc some bash. I had one on me last night in Territory War. I had a Fire Music Queen on Bash on the enemy team, and every single time she touched anyone on my team, she procced a Bash stun. It can be very problematic. She's got double AoE, so something like that can be very problematic. Just understand, anybody if you don't have a very fast booster, most of the time people that are confident in their booster are still going to come in and outspeed you. For example, my pumpkin is plus 197. I feel like I'm going to win most of the time. I don't think I'm like the fastest on the server, but I'll roll those dice. Anywhere outside of the top 100, I'll roll those dice. And most of the time, I'll win that. You know what I mean? Every now and then someone catches me off guard. But most of the time at plus 197 on my pumpkin, I'm going to win that speed race. So just understand, if you're setting that, there will still be people who are just confident enough in their booster. Because of how high the speed is, they're going to come in and probably win that race, okay? So that's another route you can go. You can go the kind of Bruiser, semi-dangerous team that's just going to outlast you. Because if you try to cleave that team and fail, it's over. You're not recovering from it. You know what I mean? You can go the speed threat route, where it's, do they want to try to win the race, or do they want to risk, you know, a fire specialist missing, which she's not going to do much. She ain't going to do much missing. So that's a route you can go. And then, of course, you could go the pure stall. Everybody on the team has self-sustain and super high resistance and super high HP, right? Water Engineer Robot. I just reworked mine. I'm trying him on a defense for Guild War. I just put as much resistance as I could get on mine, with as much speed as I could swing with it. And we're going to try that out. So, like, that's a thing too. It's annoying. I hate it. But I want somebody else to go through the torture I've gone through. So we're going to give it a go and see how we feel about it. But that's basically it. And then get as creative as you want to get about it. The final note I really have for you about arena defense is, it doesn't matter if you lose, especially on defense. Your defense is going to lose most of the time. I wish I could go back and show you more of my history. When I actually set a real defense, sometimes I'll come in here and have like all successes and one fail. And it's like, man, that's really cool. That's really crazy fun. But most of the time, even with a full defense set, it's going to look like this. Because, especially not during rush hour, some people go into arena and just try to counter every team they see. It's a good way to learn, right? That's a good way to learn, is fight every single defense you see. Even if you know you're not going to beat it, try to fight every single defense in your list and figure out what about it was problematic. Or figure out what about it made it not problematic. Figure out why you were able to beat it so easily, or again, on the other end of the spectrum, like what was the reason you didn't beat it? Was it a particular unit? Was it a certain gear set? Was it a certain synergy? What about it made it hard for you to counter? And the more that you do that, the more that you'll start to understand what is a problem. I didn't understand Water Dumbfighter for a while early on, but I realized that, like, subconsciously, especially in rush hour, if I saw her on a defense, I was just going to skip it, because I knew I couldn't cleave it with my type of. I wasn't running a bookworm cleave. I was running a cleave where I needed to land a defense down, so I wasn't consciously connecting it like, oh, I should build her because she's that good. I just realized I was seeing her and not wanting to attack her. And then I finally built her, and she was incredible. She keeps getting nerfed. But, like, try to make a conscious note. Try to be more aware of, like, what you see in a defense that makes you not want to hit it, right? This will pop up, and you'll go, okay, I don't want to do it, and you'll move on. But, like, go back to it. Think about why you think you don't want to hit it, and then go hit it, and see if you can't work your way around it. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, LD5s present a whole new slew of unique problems, but, like, even so, it's good information to have, because you might pull that unit one day and you might remember maybe this defense is incredible, and you'll fight it and you'll know why, and then maybe someday you'll be able to build it, or at the very least apply something to it, apply something from it into your own defense. Okay, so that would be my big tip for you, is one, just accept that you're going to come in here and lose. It just is the way it is. Nobody can set a defense that wins every time. Everything has a counter. in a balanced game. And that's the way that it should be. So just understand your defense is going to lose more than it wins. And it's not a bad idea to just go through every single defense in your list and fight it. It doesn't matter if you lose. And it's such good information in helping you put together your own defense. So I hope this was helpful. I know this is not as straightforward. Like I said, I wish it could be a little bit more cut and dry, like the arena one. The arena one, I can specifically tell you, like, do this, do this, do this. Defenses are a little bit more vague. It's a little bit more ambiguous with defense because there's just so many possibilities and so many other things you have to keep in mind. You can build an offense and then only fight stuff you know that offense can beat, but the defense is available to everybody else. So there's just so much more to think about. So if you would like a video where maybe I talk about specific defenses, maybe we build a few example defenses, or maybe I like go through the arena defenses that I see, and we can do the thing where like we fight them, or we just talk about why they're effective or why they're not effective. If you want to follow up on this with something along those lines, let me know, and I'll do something like that. I know Claytano, way back in the day in Summoners War, used to do a series. It was like best arena defenses and why they work. If you would like to see something like that in this game, then let me know, and I will start trying to work on that. So again, I do hope it was helpful. I'm not real sure. This one I won't really know how helpful it's going to be till I get some feedback. So let me know in the comments if you got anything out of this and if you'd like to see a follow-up on it. And that's it. I'm done rambling. I appreciate you guys watching. I do hope it was helpful. I'll see y'all in the next one.